like to get started.
You probably know what's on ballot more than I do in
Welcome
Johnson
everyone,
County, but
both members and guests. A special welcome to our panelists. You will be providing very important information, and we're very appreciative of that. As many of you know, Diana Wynn, the president of the League of Women Voters of the United States, traveled here to Kansas City and gave a presentation on August 28th to our local leagues, both Missouri and Kansas, as the concluding event in Women's Equality Week. Our Johnson County, Kansas League worked with the Kansas City, Missouri League to put on this event. There were many people involved with this, but I wish to give special recognition to four of our league members: Leslie Sullivan, Lynn Hardy, Ellen Porter, and Debbie Kitchen, who really did our league proud to make this a very successful event. During the ceremony to welcome Diana, I presented her with a proclamation from Mike Kelly, chairman of Johnson County, Kansas Board of County Commissioners, which recognized 1, Women's Equality Week, and 2, the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, Kansas. We will try to get the official copy of this proclamation, out in the next voter, so you can see it and everything. Now, I have a special announcement for all league members about an e-blast which you will be receiving in your email likely in the next 5 to 6 days. In late 2023, our state league identified a challenge facing the state league, but also all our local leagues in Kansas. In 2024 and in 2025, league members across Kansas attended Kansas Leadership Center classes on how to approach this challenge. The first step is asking all our league members what are called powerful questions. These are open-ended. They're not yes/no answers. And receiving back their replies. So, each member will be receiving these 5 questions, and we hope each member will provide their insights. Our league always tells voters, your vote is your voice. Our league is saying to our members, your answer is your voice. And if you're interested in helping to review the answers that are received back, there is a powerful questions review team sign-up sheet. And it'll be back there on the table, right where you entered there. And it would be good to have 10 or more sign-ups. And now I turn the meeting over to our Vice President, Linda Trout.
Good morning. Thank you to all of you for being here this morning. Just as a reminder, the League is a grassroots nonprofit organization grounded in our nonpartisan policy, meaning we neither support nor oppose any candidate or political party at any level of government. This protects our 501c3 status. Let us be leaders in civility in the political arena. Our mission is to defend democracy and to empower voters. Our programs actively try to include all party affiliations and differing points of view. While we aren't partisan, we are political. Our league has been actively involved in federal, state, and local government public policy for more than 71 years, as evidenced by our long-standing position statements. I am really excited about today's program. Malia Siebert, the chair of the Voter Registration Committee, has organized an informative and motivational program which she will introduce to you. Erica Simon of our league has been very helpful to her with all of these printed materials. I admit to you that I did not completely realize how much the Voter Registration Committee has been doing in the past year under Malia's leadership. I want to tell you that in the 6 months leading up to the presidential election last fall, the Voter Registration Committee and members of our league held 27 events, registered approximately 275 people, and engaged 1,000 new and existing voters. Voter registration events including 8 at high schools, 5 at local colleges, 4 at senior living facilities, and other community events. The Voter Registration Committee is currently on track to hold 30 events prior to the November 4th local elections. Their goal is to register 150 voters and engage with 500 new and existing voters. Our voter registration team has already contributed over 280 volunteer hours as of today. Highlights include the naturalization ceremonies, medical students at KU, students in high schools, colleges, and a technical school. Are you impressed with all that? I really am. Malia will introduce our program. If you have any questions for our panelists, please use the card on your chair or near you and write them down. We'll collect them and ask them as time permits. Please welcome Malia Siebert.
That was a very nice welcome, so thank you. And thanks to everybody for being here, and a special thanks to the panel. As you leave the meeting, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and grab some items on the right-hand side of the entryway when you walk out. We have placed some of the business cards in packs of 10, so you can grab them, take them with you, put them in your purse. They're great to have out and about in the community. And we have also, if you have not received it when you walked in, we also have some handouts that talk high level about the local elections, what's on the ballot, who's on the ballot, let me back up, what positions are on the ballot, and what they do, because it's hard sometimes remembering and speaking to friends about exactly what they're doing. And then we've gotten a little bit more detailed as well with which races are happening for each of the roles. So definitely grab some of those. And then one thing we're going to do at the end of this session today, we're going to give everybody calls to action. So those will be fun, just little calls to action and things that we can do once we leave the session. So what we're going to do now is chat with our panel, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience. So again, thank you all very much, and I'm excited to be here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to turn it over to the panel. Evan Altman, he's with ACLU of Kansas. Lauren Clapper. That's okay. I have a Lauren and a Laurel. It's been Lauren Clapper, I'm the Voter Network, and Laurel Birchfield from Mainstream. I'm going to take a seat here. So if you would each like to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do with the organization, and all that good stuff. That'd be great.
Yeah, again, I'm Evan with ACLU of Kansas. Thank you for being here. Excited to talk about voting. I'm the voting rights organizer. Allie Utley is the other voting rights organizer who specifically organizes in this county there.
My name is Lauren Clapper. I use she, her pronouns. I'm with the Voter Network. And I am our Director of Training and Partner Support. The Voter Network, if you haven't heard of it, our goal is just to change the culture around voting in Kansas. We're also really interested in just changing, fixing the gaps in the electorate. So, we know that white voters are turning out at high rates, but there are black and brown voters across the state, young voters who are not turning out at the same rates. And so that's one of our main focuses. And as the Director of Training and Partner Support, I do a lot just to work with all the awesome nonpartisan nonprofits who are doing voter engagement and power building work across the state. Mainstream is one of those organizations, so is the ACLU, so is the League. I get to work with Debbie Marie here a lot. So I do a lot just doing coordination across our partners.
Hi, I'm Laurel. I'm the Advocacy Director at Mainstream. I always get called Lauren, so I got a little tickled at that when you got called Laurel. Thank you for having me. I see so many familiar faces, so I'm just going to talk about Mainstream very briefly because I have a sense that a lot of you know about us. But we're a 30-plus-year-old nonprofit started right here in Johnson County by faith and civic leaders who saw a rise in religious extremism in our politics and in our elections. And so for over 30 years, we've been fighting that. And as you can imagine, the fight's getting more important based on our current status with politics. And so part of our work in the electoral season is to educate voters about the importance of voting, but also about voting for their values. And so we do have candidate recommendations that we put out under our C4 arm that help guide voters to understand who their candidates are, what they stand for, and when you go to the ballot box, you have a sense of who you're voting for. We definitely try to encourage residents of our communities to be informed voters when they step into that ballot box. And so I'm really excited to join our partners in talking with you all about how you can participate in this, even though you guys are doing amazing things already, and I'm so excited to hear some of those numbers. Thanks for having us today.
Yes, and thank you so much. I am going to ask a few questions now to get things kicked off before we turn it over to the members, so definitely write questions down. And I realize there may be some overlap, and that's okay. Some of the things are great to hear a few times about local elections and turnout. So I'm going to get things kicked off, and if you don't know the answer, it's okay. What are some upcoming what are some upcoming races, high level, and maybe some that we can kind of keep an eye on or that you're comfortable speaking to in Johnson and Wyandotte counties both?
I guess
anybody can jump in.
Yeah, I'll start. Every race is absolutely important. I'm also a city council member in the city of Shawnee, so I know very well how hard it is to get out the vote for municipal elections, but also how crucial it is that we have people voting, because that's the only way that we get people into these very critical local seats who can make the decisions that represent all constituents. And so every race is important this season. There's no such thing as an off season when it comes to elections. Every year is an election year. Every year is an important election year. That said, this is a nonpartisan year, which means that when people go to the ballot, they don't see a candidate's party affiliation on their ballot. But that doesn't mean that partisanship hasn't entered into these races. And so we do see a couple of races across Johnson County, which is where I'm more familiar, where partisanship is creeping up in very bold and blatant ways. And so we see that in spaces like Prairie Village. We see that in our Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees. We see that in Shawnee. And so as you are registering people, as you are talking to people about elections, remind them that this is a nonpartisan year and that we're voting for people who are supposed to be doing the work of the city, of the school boards, of our water board, and partisanship should not be the leading factor when it comes to these elections. But we are seeing that more and more in Johnson County, at least.
I can talk a little bit more about Wyandotte. That's where I live. I'm from Kansas City, Kansas, and I live there now. We have a lot of really important elections going on in Wyandotte County and KCK. If you don't know, Wyandotte County is unique in that, or Kansas City as well, I guess you should say, in that there's not a separate city council and county commission that's been combined under the unified government. And we have half of our unified government commissioners up for election this year. They're elected every 2 years, or 4 actually, sorry. And then we also have the mayoral race, which is really important. We have the opportunity to pick a new mayor because the incumbent mayor is not running. And there's also school board races, just tons of really important local elections. Like Laurel was saying, that's stuff that is the closest to home, you know, really issues that are really important to us. And also, we know that turnout is really low, typically in local elections. In Johnson County, I believe it was 26% in 2023, and so it's not uncommon for these local races to come down to just a couple votes. That happened the last local election in Wyandotte County. A commissioner won, I want to say, by like 6 votes. So that's something that happens frequently, and that's why it's really important to vote in these elections. Your vote, some ways, it matters more because it comes down to just a couple ballots. So.
Everything they said. You know, every election does matter, especially in Wyandotte County. I'm focusing on somehow trying to increase the voter turnout. Do you know the voting turnout of the last?
I think it was under 20%. Yeah.
And it's people like the city council members, school board that directly affect your lives the most. You know, so I always advise people, look for the candidate that is public and adamant about protecting your civil liberties and your rights above everything else, and vote for that candidate. So.
And if I'm not mistaken, you specifically work with felons, is that correct? Is that the population you focus on?
Yeah, so one of my main jobs at the ACLU is interacting and reaching out to Kansans who have a felony conviction, to letting them know of their voting rights. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of stigma in this space that keep that population from voting, that is taking away their voice. And there's 71,000 Kansans who have a felony conviction who are eligible to re-register but don't know it. Local elections are close, some only by a few votes. 71,000 registries definitely tips the scale. That's like 2 to 3% of our population. In Johnson County, I believe you guys have close to 7,000 eligible citizens to re-register, and in Wyandotte, it's closer to 10,000. So.
Thank you. And this is my first time ever having done this, so I realize I'm not doing a great job of having you guys flip this wide. What I've just put up there, what they have just put up there now is kind of high level, what the different races are, and then who, when they do, because it's so easy to forget, and also those are good talking points. And I put this together, so it might be erroneous information. I did my best, so you'll have to excuse some of it if, and I'm sure there will be more, and you can certainly speak to anything that isn't quite accurate, so I'm gonna take a look at that. And I actually just thought of a question. So at voter registration events, and I'm sure in our personal lives, people will either say, my vote doesn't matter. You know, they're very disenchanted. They're frustrated with what's happening right now. Is there something, is there like a catchphrase or something that you can really use to get their attention, right? If someone says, I don't care, it doesn't matter. Like, what is something that you can say that helps them and build a connection, and that would help us, because that is something we've probably heard.
I mean, I was at a voter registration booth last year at IKEA, and I literally had people, like, as they walked by, celebrating, saying, I don't vote, and they were happy. They were excited to kind of share that with me. So I don't know the secret message. I hope it exists out there. You guys do amazing messaging, though.
I mean, I think one thing that we do is sometimes it's more important not just like what the message is, but who the messenger is. So we do a lot of work. One of our main programs is a relational organizing program called Voter to Voter. So it's people talking to their network. So your friends, your family, the people in the league or in your church group. It's talking to them about voting, because when you hear the message from someone that you trust, that you already have a relationship with, it's more likely to resonate. You know, you're more easily persuaded to do. You know, if someone that is important to you tells you that voting is important and why it's important to them, I think that's a lot more compelling for folks than getting a cold call for my campaign. And so that's what we really focus on. And so I can't say that there's one specific message,
secret sauce.
but yeah, it's kind of hard to find that silver bullet for that. But I think it's really like having conversations with folks and identifying what is it that is important to them, because everyone has some issue that matters to them, and we often see that that's impacted by the decisions our elected officials are making. And so that's why that's what I like to talk to people about is find what they care about.
Can you next slide, please? Okay. Evan, did you have the secret sauce to share with us?
No, obviously. I like to tell people, and this works sometimes, but again, there are people in this country that lose their right to vote based off of old laws in the Jim Crow era that punished black men and took away their right to vote. And we are still seeing it today to where it is affecting all of us. So even, coming across people that don't even vote, when they hear that there are people in this country that get that right taken away, you can see it in their mind. They start to think about it a little bit more. So use your right to vote, because it is not guaranteed, unfortunately.
Thank you. I wanted to put that slide up there too, so if you have a pen and paper, jot that information down, because I do want to tie that into specific calls for action, and they've already mentioned great ways. If you all wanted to reach out to their organizations as well to get involved, it sounds like there's always important work to be done.
Always.
Always. And one thing that I wanted to mention at our events is we do know like the population. If we're going to a youth event, if we're going to a senior living facility, if we're going to an event in the community, know something about that audience and what's important to them. Affordable housing, right? And then you can kind of tie that back into who's running, what's on the ballot, whatever those issues are, like Medicare and Medicaid, probably more important to seniors, right? So maybe just kind of, do as much homework as you can to kind of speak to those things. So I was just thinking about that as well. Let's stop now. Have you guys been writing down questions? Jot down questions? Okay, do you have one? Thank you. The question is, we plan to put yard signs up promoting specific candidates. Can we also put up a Your Vote Matters sign? Yeah, absolutely. And I believe we have some in the back too. So feel free to stop by and grab some. And again, I think that this kind of overlaps too. So do your organizations have specific challenges that you don't think other organizations might? Or even just share what some of your group's specific challenges are. And I think it's interesting to see if there is overlap and what you guys are doing to address those challenges.
Would you guys like to go first this time? I have so many challenges, but you guys go first.
I'm thinking about what. That's a really good question. Go ahead.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Nonpartisan.
Yeah. I guess I'll give a brief. One of the challenges we face, especially during this time, is that we are finding it more and more difficult for elected officials to act out of fear, out of persecution, out of threats to their lives at time, losing funding for whatever city, whatever ward they're representing, etc. And that's been a unique challenge. We've been finding that challenge specifically in Johnson County. If any of you have been interacting with Allie, you of course know that we are really focused on getting language access for voting in Johnson County. There are over 60,000 residents who have a language other than English as their primary language. And we're really focused on making democracy real for every Kansan. So, shameless plug, sorry. If you visit our website, underneath our Take Action page, you'll see a tab that says Email Mike Kelly to support language access for Johnson County. If you guys can do that, that's just a way for you to take direct action to make sure that every eligible citizen can vote in their language.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen some of what you're describing as well, not even just among elected officials, but also people who like are doing this work. I think there's just, you know, more fear right now around speaking out, around, you know, talking to people about what matters to you. But I think there's, you know, that's one of the benefits of one of our approaches to this is that we're encouraging people to talk to their existing networks. You know, maybe you don't feel as comfortable talking to people that you don't know, but you can start by just talking to people that you're already familiar with. And that can be a great place to start and also just, you know, build community during this time.
And I would add, for us, it's disinformation. There are so many things out there in social media, in traditional media, and just things that people say that are being fueled by fear and anger and partisanship in a way that really affects voters' interest in participating in our democracy. I mean, the people who can't participate want to, and then so many of us are turned off by politics and turned off by the way that it's affecting our daily lives that we step aside for a while. And disinformation feeds that, I think. It also creates these pockets of anger and frustration that sometimes makes us hard to talk outside of our bubbles. And so when we're talking to people about voting, whether they're in our community, in our book club, I have a Bunko group who I'm talking to tonight about the local election. Whether it's people we're very close to or it's people who we have a chance encounter with at the grocery store, there's always this fear that, well, what news do they follow and what do they think about these things and how can I talk about that? And that disinformation is something that we have to process and deal with and actually counter by talking about our values and how we are engaging in our democracy because we believe in our communities and we believe that we can elect people who align with our values and will move us forward. And so that disinformation is so hard to counter, but it's so powerful. And we have to like confront it if we're ever going to get those disengaged voters back into an active and thriving democracy.
That's a great transition. Question from the audience. How can we work through social media?
I both love and hate social media. I think that it is fantastic in bridging across. Like, I'm part of, I'm sure, the same groups that you all are on Facebook, where I'm talking to people across the state who I never would have a chance to talk to. And it's about things that bring us together, right? Those shared values. So I love it as a space for that. I hate it as a place where people can say whatever they want without consequence, because that's where that disinformation spreads, and that's how people feel emboldened to act and say things that hurt others. So I just ask that when we use social media, we stop and we think before we react, and that we are intentional with how we're trying to embrace people who we don't agree with or who we don't know. But in a more strategic kind of organizational way, social media is a really great place for us to raise awareness, for us to post things that people can interact with and have conversations. But we can't rely on that as the only space where we interact with our community. But like I said, you guys do really great messaging online, so you probably have a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be a great place to share information. We have somebody who makes some content for us just around, you know, like why it's important to vote, what's going to be on your ballot for local elections. I think it's I think it's important to keep in mind, like based on what platform you're using, like who are the people who are primarily using that. You know, we know that the folks that you're reaching on TikTok are probably different than the folks that you're reaching on Facebook. So I think that's important too, just thinking about like, maybe it's similar information, but you're presenting it in a slightly different way based on the platform that you're using. But yeah, I think it can be a way to make this information more fun that we're sharing out. It can be a great way to reach people, but like you said, there's also limitations. You know, we need to communicate with people outside of that as well.
Control F is my friend. So when you're looking for something specific, and you're easily irritated like I am, just Control F and then search for whatever you're searching for. But I also want to mention, if any of you have heard of One Small Step, it is a great organization. One of the pilot cities for this was in Wichita, and basically what they do is you can go on their website and enroll in this program, and it'll ask you a bunch of questions about you, who you are, what your values are, and they will pair you up with someone who is the exact opposite on the ideological spectrum, religious spectrum, etc. And they will sit both of you down and facilitate a conversation. And I had the opportunity to do this, and it really makes clear that all of us really do want the same thing when it comes down to it. And it allows me to look upon someone that I think has abhorrent views with a little bit more compassion and empathy. So check out One Small Step. It helped me, and it can help you guys too. So.
And just something to add with that, I have pretty strong opinions about a lot of things and feel a lot of emotions that I'm sure a lot of you all feel too. Aggravation, frustration, sadness. When I share things on social media, I try to do a good job of pulling my emotion out of it, because a lot of times if you glance at something on social media, if someone's mad or angry, I don't want to read that. So if someone reads something of mine, if I'm mad, angry, they're not going to read it. So I try really hard to yank the emotion out when I'm sharing things on social media to increase the likelihood that people pay attention to what I'm saying. So that's just something I do. And I also recently read that people get the majority of their information from social media. Yeah. Which is frightening. So, for what that's worth.
And I think that's across all ages too, which is remarkable.
Yeah. It's important to put good information out there when we can, because there's a lot of bad information.
One thing I want to mention, this ties into what we just spoke about for people who don't vote. Someone shared this in the audience, and it's very, very good. It's kind of not a comeback, but something to reference is, or say, I vote because men and women in uniform have died for my right to do so. Voting is the least I can do to respect their sacrifice. That's very good. It's very powerful. I didn't want to jump into this one just yet. I guess I will. Hang on. Let me wait. Oh, another thing I mentioned too, did we discuss yard signs or signs? I may have thought about it in my head, but just remember, for those people who do put yard signs up saying your vote matters, make sure it's not tied into promoting a specific candidate. So that's important, and it's easy to forget that one. Are the Voter Network and Mainstream Coalition national organizations?
No. So actually, we used to be the same organization. The Voter Network was under Mainstream for a while, and then 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2023.
Yep. Grew their wings and flew away from home. But we both started right here in Kansas, in Johnson County, actually. And so Mainstream, with our mission of confronting Christian nationalism and religious extremism in politics and elections. We work with national organizations. We have a lot of partnerships, but we're unique in being one of the only statewide organizations with this mission who works in this way. So Kansas has a pretty special thing with us.
I know you guys are similar.
Yeah, we are. So we are also started in Kansas, and that's where we focus on is on voting and elections in Kansas. But like Laurel said with Mainstream, we also have some national partners because we think it's important. You know, we see a lot of the same things happening across the U.S. and other states too, and so it's important for us to talk to folks across the U.S., other organizations about what their work is, because we find a lot of common ground. You know, we can share what works and what doesn't in our state, and you know, learn from that, which is great.
How can we make elections more interesting for parts of our state that only have one candidate and or party to vote for? Good question.
I think a lot of that is long-term work, honestly.
Yes.
You know, because I understand where people are coming from. If you're telling them it's really important to get out to vote, but there's only like one thing to fill in, circle in, there's only one option on their ballot, that can be kind of hard to feel excited about. But I think, you know, long-term, some of that looks like candidate recruitment. You know, so how do we go out and reach people and talk to them, excuse me, just about the difference that they can make in their own communities. You know, it's leadership development for folks. Not to say anything bad about elected officials, because I think a lot of them are great, but some are not the most qualified. And so I think that, you know, anybody, not saying anything about you here, Laurel's awesome, but, you know, I think that like anyone really can do that job, but I think it's about like letting people know that, you know, whatever it is that they see in their community that's really important to them or that they think needs changed, they can actually directly impact that if they were to run for office and be able to make those decisions. And they could be a great fit for that too, you know, because they understand their community and what it needs. So I think a lot of that's just, it's long-term work, and it's changing, it's increasing who's running for office. So.
I love that answer. And especially because you're right, there are a lot of people who run for office who have no qualifications other than passion, which is where I was when I decided to run. But once people start getting engaged in things like the local government or their school board or state legislation, they start seeing spaces for themselves where they can bring that passion, and they do find that they have expertise or knowledge or lived experience that really is critical to the way that our laws and our ordinances at the local level are passed. And so it is a long-term strategy for elections. That means we have to talk about things when it's not an election. We have to get people involved in their democracy and in their government and see their place for it and see their value to it in the kind of time when we aren't focused on just getting people registered, just getting people to vote for a specific election. Democracy is something that we all should be participating in every day of the year. And that is a very long-term strategy. But I think it's critical to being able to have a higher than 14% voter turnout when it comes to voting for people who make the decisions that affect us daily in our communities.
Yeah, our field department's really focused on empowering people at the hyper-local level, giving them the tools and the knowledge they need to go talk to their city council member, take action in your community, because a lot of times for these elections where you think it doesn't matter, your city council member is actually one of the most powerful people that directly impact your life. So we just want to give people the tools to recognize that, and we find that once people learn that information, they become a little bit more invested to where they do treat elections as like a 24/7 job.
Many candidates do not share their values. How can I be sure our values are eye to eye? What are our resources? I do want to put a plug in for Vote 411, and that is a really, really great one-stop shop for a place to go in and take a look at your ballot, and side by side you can see the candidates. We hope that the candidates do actually submit their information, but if they do, it's fantastic because you can see side by side, how do you feel about immigration policy? What about Medicaid? You can look at it, and that's a really great thing. So play around in it if you haven't.
Yeah, Vote 411 is an awesome tool. Yeah, so definitely use that. We have a similar tool called ksballot.org that has the similar information. You can preview your ballot ahead of time, and you can also like select who you want to vote for. So then you can like email or text that to yourself so that you can go into the polls. We poll information that's available that we can find about candidates. So like, if they have a website, which not all of them do, especially in these local elections, if they have a social media presence, a lot of them actually have like a Facebook page, and so we try to link out to that if there is information publicly available about where they stand on certain issues, we try to make that available as well. But yeah, those are both Vote 411 and ksballot.org are great resources to feel informed before you go vote.
And if you're feeling extra, call them, email them. Like if you have a candidate and they don't have a website or they don't have an active social media presence and they don't participate in 411, which they absolutely should, is a great resource, same as yours, reach out. They're people. And a lot of them, especially during the municipal and the school board years, they're in your community. Reach out and ask them. Ask them questions that they don't feel threatened by, though, if you want them to respond. So if you have a very strong opinion about immigration right now, don't say, I believe that this should be the thing, how do you feel about it? Ask them a question that lets them kind of give you an answer from their perspective so you can see what they say. Because I think that a lot of candidates are not responsive right now when they get a survey or they get a request to fill out an endorsement request. And sometimes reaching out one-on-one and having a human conversation is a little bit easier for them, or you can get a little bit better sense of where they stand on some things. Candidates are people. That's my takeaway.
And I do want to mention voter information and all of the amazing work they're doing. It made me think about the meet and greets, where you can come meet with the prospective candidates and talk to them and ask them these questions. And there's something to be said for actually having a conversation and looking into their face and their eyes and hearing what they have to say. And then you can go out and share that information with your family and friends. So that is a good way. And I haven't done that, but it's on my calendar. So,
may I say something?
Yes, of course, please.
Okay. So the other thing about that, it's a two-way street if you think about it. This new silo days, and we don't talk to each other. So I think it's important that you get the information from them, but that you get the information from you.
Oh, would you like to?
Even if, oh, sorry. Well,
Debbie was giving me.
So even if you know who you're going to vote for, you need to get out there and talk to all the candidates that are at the meet and greet. Ask them respectful questions and let them know your point of view, because they may not know that many people care about these particular things. So 27th of September will be at the Monticello. You can see who's going to be there. October 8th in Olathe, and then we'll be in Wyandotte County at the South Library on the 15th. And I would appreciate you guys showing up. It's a protest, guys. So you show up at protests, but what does it matter? What does it matter if you don't show up where the candidates actually see you?
That is, Debbie, would you like to? We got a fist pump from her. That is one of our calls to action. And the call to action is, it's a challenge. So go to our meet and greets. See if you can go to a candidate forum. Does anybody know where those items are listed on our website? The events calendar. Yay! So please check out our website too. So just wanted to mention that. And here, I just wanted to share this as well. Someone said, it's always good to remind people, democracy is not a spectator sport. That's very true. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into this one. Wait. Hang
You're
on.
making us nervous.
I know.
No, it's not that scary. I was going to punt it till the end. So I can find it again. Oh, all right, here we go. What is your organization doing or planning to combat anticipated mid-census gerrymandering and resultant voter alienation?
Evan, you want to start with
Pass.
that one?
And it might be a little bit easier if we were in Missouri right now in Jackson County, but or it might be more concrete in our minds too. So
Yeah, we're of course, the ACLU is of course monitoring it, and our lawyers are of course monitoring it. But right now there's really nothing we can do until we know what's actually going to happen. So we're just, during this time, really focused on keeping people informed, getting people to volunteer, because it is not going to be the ACLU or our lawsuit that stops this if it comes to pass. It's going to be everyone sitting here, your neighbors, your friends, going to the State House to speak up, to give testimony, to reject it. So.
I think the Voter Network will definitely we are not typically super involved in legislative advocacy, but we'll definitely lift up the work that our partners are doing, keeping folks informed about how they can take action and fight back against this. We are, it's very important to us that people are democratically represented, so it's something that we're definitely keeping an eye on.
And mainstream back during the regular redistricting process, the one that we're all used to, we helped convene organizations, including ACLU and others, to stay on top of what was happening during the process of drawing maps, helping residents get engaged by providing testimony, if interested, drawing their own maps, which I know the League is so good at doing. You guys have amazing expertise in your state league that has really impacted the way that we talk about gerrymandering and the way we talk about it with our legislators and with the public and with the media. So that's something that we are talking about, how we get prepared if that comes our way. We definitely have folks who are monitoring what's happening, what's being said in the legislature with regards to any potential special sessions or when we get to regular session. I think it is such an intensely unpopular idea because it goes to the very core of a representative democracy, right? And unfortunately, in the courts, that's not always on our side. We don't always get the results when these kind of maps and issues go to the courts. So I think a lot of it is messaging, and a lot of it is contacting our electeds right now and saying, this is not what I elected you to do. I didn't elect you to draw a map that negates my voice. And so right now, as we're waiting for information, as we're waiting to hear back, I think that's the most important thing we can be doing, is letting them know, our legislators, that that's not what we the people want. We want to be able to vote in an election that represents a fairly drawn representative map for our congressional districts. And just at the moment, we're kind of in a holding pattern of waiting to see what the powers that be want to do. But you can absolutely be reaching out right now and saying, this isn't what I want.
did anybody happen to hear or see our National League president last week? Several of you did. She did a really good job, and the point she made about gerrymandering in the League was so clear to me. The main takeaway for me, anyway, was that we represent the voters. We represent the voters and making sure their voices are heard. So if Native Americans or the youth or Black and brown neighborhoods, if they're split up during this process, we're representing them, and their interests with the voting. So that's what I heard, and if anybody else wanted to add something. So I thought that was a really good thing to remember too. All right, are there any final questions? I wanted to go ahead now, and go ahead if you could flip to the calls to action screen, which should be the next one, I believe. So we're going to wrap things up, and I want to also defer to you all as well. So these are our calls to action. So again, did you grab a sheet of paper when you walked in? Okay, so some of you have that call to action. So what we want you to do is take that with you over the month, if you can remember to. We do have them to pass around, and you can also get them out front. So these are just ideas, and some of them, I don't want to say easier, but they're meant to meet you where you're at and what your comfort level is. And then I'm also going to turn it over to our panelists to see if they can have additional ones. So back to what we were talking about, please see the events calendar of our website. Thank you. Attend a postcard party. One of the nice things about postcards, I think, is you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marie, but it's a nice way to sit down and chat with your friends and do some postcards. I believe they probably let you take the postcards with you to complete them. You do not. Not today, but at a postcard party. Yeah, so if you give the volunteers a stack of like 50 postcards, they can take them home with them too, to complete. Okay, my mistake, just the postcard. But it's still a fun, great way to meet other members of the league and bring their family and friends. It's a party, lots of music, and participate in text or phone banking. I'm going to refer everyone to admin, which is Debbie, at lwbjoco.org. She will get you squared away. So I've done text banking before. It's pretty easy. So definitely think about that too. Drop door knockers. And when I first heard door knockers, I'm like, what the heck's a door knocker? So a door knocker is something that you hang over a doorknob, right? Yeah. And you can do that in your neighborhoods, which is pretty easy, I think. And if it's a nice day, then you can get some steps in and just walk, chat with Debbie for more information, or at the voter information table as well, which is right outside the door. And share a Vote 411 on social media, or email and encourage others to preview their ballots. Most of my friends are pretty engaged and dialed in, but a lot of them don't know that the local elections are happening. So even by sharing this with one person, oh really, I didn't know that, and then they can share it with their family and friends too. I will probably wait personally until we get a little bit closer to the election so people don't forget, but this is a really easy one too. You can just share that on social media or email it and say, hey, guess what? You can take a look at your ballot, which is attractive, and I think it's helpful for everybody. And I think you had spoken to this too. If people have not, if you go to Vote 411 and type in your address and see that people have not completed the information or answer the questions, you can reach out to them and kind of nudge them and say, hey, can you do this for us? And also thank them for participating. Next slide. And this is where this is how you can respond when someone says, I don't know who's running, I don't know what's on the ballot, right? There are a couple of places where we can go to find out more information on the candidates. Oh, yep, we can go to jocoelection.org, YCO votes, kck.gov. And then you had shared something as well, right? Do you guys have a tool for candidate tool?
ksballot.org.
ksballot.org, okay.
Yeah.
And they can also look up candidate information?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. They can preview their ballot there. Yep.
So
and
that's
you guys fill that out based on if they give you any kind of response at all or not. Like you guys seek that information, so you always have something about the candidate there.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. And let's see. I also think one of a cool, easy thing people could do, relatively easy, is if you belong to a book club, if you live in an area HOA, an apartment complex, you can drop off or send them newsletters and ask Yeah, you can ask if they will put a little blurb in about the local election to reach a different group, and that's, I think that's a fairly easy thing to do. Please take some business cards to hand out on the fly, groups of 10, and you'll be good to go. Reach out to college students and direct them to ksvotes.org. If they're in the state of Kansas, they could then re-register at their new address. If they still feel a tie-in connection here locally, they can request an absentee ballot. I think most of us probably know of someone who's now in college or a younger person. They don't mind a text. Even if 2 people take action, that's 2 people taking action. So these are just some of the ways. So we challenge everyone to come back and with that completed. And do you have any other specific actionable things? We can go to your websites.
Well, Debbie Marie stole my thunder. I was going to mention the candidate meet and greets that Mainstream and the League are hosting together, along with some other partners in Olathe and in Northwest Johnson County. We're getting the school boards for the DeSoto School District, and I know there's uncontested races in Shawnee Mission School District. But we're also asking the city council members from DeSoto and Shawnee, and then in Olathe, we're getting the trustees, the Olathe City Council and School Board, and Water One. No, Water One is Shawnee. See, Debbie really needs to just be up here. But any opportunity that you have to engage directly with a candidate, I encourage you to do it because you're building a relationship. One of those candidates is going to win and be sitting in a seat of an elected position. Build that relationship now. So that's my call to action. Attend those meet and greets and just build relationships.
I have
No.
Okay.
Go
So
for
I
it.
have a couple things I can look up. Well, I wanted to just put in another plug for that phone bank that was up there. That's actually a collaborative effort between a lot of our nonpartisan organizations. And we specifically are calling folks who we know are not likely to vote in this general election. I'm sure we're going to reach folks, a lot of folks probably who don't even know that there's an election. We reached folks last year, as crazy as it sounds, who didn't know that there was one. We're certainly going to reach folks this year. No, it's people who haven't voted in more than 2 of the last general elections. We specifically are calling Black and brown voters across Kansas, young voters, people who we know are not they're disproportionately represented in the electorate currently. So that's really who we're reaching. We give you a script. There's a dialer, so you're not sitting and waiting for minutes at a time, to get connected to someone. So I really wanted to lift that opportunity up. And then the other thing too, I mentioned this earlier, is just our voter-to-voter relational organizing program. A lot of it looks like y'all's calls to actions are talking to people already in your network, which is awesome. But if you would like to join voter-to-voter, the League already has a team. And that will it can make it easier to do that. You can make a list of, at least 10 of your friends or family members, and then we give you messaging so that, you can remind them to register to vote if they haven't. You can also see in our tool if they are registered to vote. You can help them make a plan to vote. You can see if they request a mail-in ballot. We have messages where we encourage that. And through that program this year, we also have something called the City to City Challenge. Because as we know, turnout in local elections is often pretty low. And different cities across the state, it kind of started in Topeka, but Wyandotte County or KCK is doing it as well. We'd love for cities in Johnson County too. The challenge is that local cities increase their turnout rate by 5%. And so by having people all in on doing that, different teams focus on different cities, then we can really make an impact on that. And we have a kickoff for that on September 24th. So if you're interested in any of these things, just come talk to me. We'd be happy to do a voter-to-voter training for you all again, but yeah.
Yes, go for it.
Just 2 things. Visit our website, aclukansas.org. Underneath Take Action, please email Mike Kelly to let him know that language access for voting is important to you. Democracy is only real if people are able to vote and the accessibility is there. A lot of these folks in Johnson County right now, they know English, but we all know ballots can be confusing, And even for me, sometimes I'm confused reading my own native language. So people should be given the opportunity to vote in the language that they understand the most. And then, of course, help me reach out to people impacted with felony convictions to let them know of their voting rights. Those text banks will start the 17th of September and take place every Wednesday until October 15th. So.
Great. One quick plug. For October, we're going to be talking about the youth vote, and we are going to be reaching out to your organizations as well to get a little bit more information so we can chat and mention the great work that you guys are doing with collaborating with the youth. So I think that's all. So please give them a round of applause, and thank you so much.
That's what I was going to say. I want to thank all of you for a really informative program and for Malia putting it together. It makes me think of one thing. The League of Women Voters, make absolutely sure that you're registered to vote. Even though you're here and you know about voting, if you've had any kind of a change in your life, you may think that you're registered